and girls, my name's Dan. Welcome back to the forge. In this episode of Trust Me, I'm Blacksmith, we're going to be making this crazy guillotine tool so that I can make a tiny weeny hammer like this. So using scrap metal from around the workshop, I've made this guillotine tool. I'm quite lucky, I've got some odd scrap metal in my workshop. However, I've made the rounding these large round fullers so I can make this hammer, but it's not the only reason I've made it. I'll talk more about the reasons I've made it during the video and also at the end, and then I'll talk about some of the problems and some of the quirks of this particular guillotine tool. So we'll enjoy the video and I'll see you at the end. A while ago I made this ASO. It's a piece of forklift truck tine. It's got these three legs on it, and I made it because I was using a cast iron anvil and I was struggling with the cast iron, and then this was too light, and then it got used for another job and that didn't quite work either. And basically it very quickly became a tong rack, a very heavy tong rack, and then very quickly went outside, and it is still rusting outside as we speak. I brought it in so that I can chop it up and turn it into some parts for the fullers, or the guillotine tool, whatever you want to call it. So basically I'm going to cannibalise this now and turn it into something useful again. Okay, so I think everything's cut now, and this is the general construction of the piece. I've made some calculation errors. I don't have some of the material that I want. As I move forward with this project into the future, because I'm going to use this for a long time, I hope, I'll make those modifications as I go along. I was going to weld everything down, but what I think I'm going to try is keep these bolts in here. I was going to rivet this together and then weld it all down, but what I'm going to try is I'm going to keep the bolts in, and the reason for that is I'll be able to take the front apart and load stuff in if I need to for whatever reason. So I'm going to be making a large fuller like this one here, and I'm also going to be making a slightly smaller one, a 20mm round. Now I'm going to go over drilling the holes in this next bit, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up welding these two pieces. I was going to weld them to this piece of plate here, but I think I've got some material I can use. Anyway, we'll get to that bridge when we need to cross it, but yeah, the next part is drilling the hole, so I'm going to go through that on the other bench. Okay, what I've got here is the basic guts of the guillotine. I've got this piece of 75 by 75 by, I think it's 6mm angle iron, which is like 3 inches by 3 inches by 1/4 of an inch. And then I've marked 3 equal points down one side. It's the same on the other half. Obviously there's 2 halves of this. And this is just over 6 inches in length, 170mm. And I've also got myself a piece of 20 by 40, which is like 1.5 by 3/4. This is all mild steel as well, so that bit's going to go on there. And then this is a piece of 70, which is just under 3 inches on there. And that's going to go on the front. Now I need to put some holes in here so I can bolt it all together. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is take our angle iron and clamp the flat bar, which is going to be the first front part of the plate. I want to clamp those together, and then I want to square them up so they're nice and tidy to each other, and then I want to take these corresponding holes and pass them all the way through. Okay, so these two components are now drilled, and I need to transfer the holes from this side onto our 20mm by 40 or inch by 3/4. So exactly the same as before. I'm just going to line that up with that edge and clamp this together. Okay, so you will have just seen me welding the majority of the frame together. It works really nicely, the pieces are all in and they do their job. I need to do some modifications to the slides or whatever that part of the guillotine is called. And I also need to make some modifications to this front bit here, the guides. What I am going to do is I'm going to take this hole saw and I'm going to cut a little bit of the material out of the centre here with the hole saw. And it's going to cause me a couple of problems. The first thing is when the tooling's in, if I take too much material off, there's going to be nothing guiding the tooling, which is a little bit of a problem because it could come out. So I need to make some modifications to the slide ever so slightly higher up. And also, I think you might be able, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to give it a go. I've got plenty of this material. I can make some more if I need to. But it was a bit of an oversight because I can't turn a hammer in there. I can do 90 as long as I take it out, but I can't turn it round in there. So the point of this is to make the hammers look nicer. So yeah, right. Anyway, my mistake. I'm going to get on and cut that now with a hole saw. Well, for the most part, quite happy. It wasn't what I was planning on, but nothing gets in the way, and this still works pretty good. So the next thing I'll do is I'm just going to get these two blocks made, which are the slightly rounder radiuses, and then I'm going to have another look and see where we're at, and if we're any good, I'm going to try and do a bit of forging with it. Repeatable, consistent results. That's what we were looking for. Right, I'm going to change the dies over and have a bit of a play with them, and then we'll get on with actually using them to make some hammers. I've also definitely made some construction errors here, which I'm willing to overcome with a bit of time and a bit more money. Now, I've made all of this entirely out of scrap metal so far, just stuff that's kicking around here. And it's nice to have these offcuts from these jobs. I know I'm quite lucky. But I think I'm going to order some material that's going to fit in here a bit tighter and make some tooling using that material. It's just going to be able to make my life a little bit easier. However, overall it's a pretty good piece of kit and it seems to be working. So we're going to try this one. Now I haven't put any extra slides on this die, so we'll see how that works. It's probably not going to work very well to start with, and then what I'll do is I'll add the slides and then we'll go from there. I have a range of spring fullers in the workshop. I've got the type that are just basically 2 bits of round bar welded onto another bit of round bar, and I've got the type which are forged out of a single piece of steel using fullers. Quite complicated these are, and I was going to make another set of these for this set of spring fullers in here, but I've been having some problems using them under the power hammer recently, whether or not I've made crappy tools or whether or not it's me doing whatever wrong. So I've decided to upgrade, and I've gone for a guillotine tool. I use it on the fly press. I always get good results on the fly press with my guillotine tool, so I thought I'd make a bigger one to stick under the power hammer and see if I got some good results. And when push comes to shove, using guillotine tools over spring fullers, there are some advantages. I never have any success using very large spring fullers like this one on the anvil using a striker. Not only do you have to overcome the spring tension of the actual tooling itself, but once you've overcome the spring tension, you also have to hit this rather hard in order to get any work out of it. And I tend to find that you lose quite a lot of your impact force by adding spring fullers in, whereas if I use something like a top and bottom fuller, results tend to be a little bit better. You tend to get more work done, and it's the same sort of principle here with the guillotine tool. This piece here is basically a top fuller. The only difference is these slides keep it in line and make sure it's nice and tidy. The other issue with spring fullers is they contact through an arc. So when you set them up for a certain size, like these ones are, when they're closed, this back end doesn't touch. So inevitably, if you're forging something that's not in that size range, or you go a little bit over what you're estimating to do, you end up putting a slight diagonal, or you basically putting 2 sets in this way, and that doesn't look very nice on the hammer. It can put a twist in and all sorts. Whereas a guillotine tool comes in parallel, and the 2 faces meet each other parallel, and if they come in contact with each other parallel, they're going to create nice straight forms. Okay, some of the things I did wrong I could have sorted out earlier, and also some things that I'd like to change. Firstly, tolerance. This moves about a bit too much in here for my liking, so the 20 round fullers as well, the 3/4 inch fullers, they did as well. They moved even more actually. In fact, they were causing me quite a bit of bother. So I made them so that they don't have any slack in them at all, or a little bit of slack. So you can move up and down, but they don't have much slack in them. And I was just being a chicken. I don't know why I didn't build them with a bit more tolerance in, because I know I can do it, I just didn't do it for some reason. So I was being a bit of a wuss. So these are pretty good now with the slight modifications that I made to them. I added some extra bits and they work quite well. The other thing I want to change is these bolt holes. I'd like to make them somewhere bigger, between about 12, maybe 16, so that's 1/2 inch to 5/8. Now, the glaringly obvious problems that I have with this piece of equipment are the fact that I have to keep putting my hand underneath the power hammer every time I want to pick it up to put something underneath, which is really irritating and it's quite stupid. I really trust the Massey. She's an old girl, but it only takes someone in this in the vicinity of the building to do something stupid, and I've lost my hand. So I don't want to do that. So I need to think of a clever way of making it so this at least lifts up a little bit, so that I can use whatever I've got to just push it up. We'll see. We'll see how we go with that. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to leave a like and subscribe. And if you are a subscriber already, please ring that bell for notifications. I make videos as often as possible. I've really been struggling to get some content out recently. A lot's been going on. I'm not talking about this virus nonsense, which isn't nonsense, I know, but I should have more time now. And I seem to be finding it even harder to get down to the workshop at the minute. But the last sort of month has been really, really difficult for me. House move and personal issues and stuff like that. So if anyone, I'm sorry if I'm letting people down. I don't mean to do it. It's just life. And as far as coronavirus goes, the guy that owns the farm, I hardly ever see him. He's told me it's okay for me to be down here if I want to be down here, so I can continue to make content. And if you've been following me on Instagram, you will know I've been thrashing stories at the minute, so go and check out the Instagram. The link to the Instagram is in the description. You can also go and check out the Etsy and also my website as well. If you want to get a bit more information about me and stuff that's going on, definitely go and check those out for sure. All being well, I should be able to get loads of lovely content out for you. Sean, this is your hammer. I'm sorry I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to try and make it again, but we will talk more about that later. I think that is everything I want to talk about. This here is a video that YouTube thinks that you will enjoy. This here is a video that was posted most recently. It's somewhere down here is a video that I've decided to put up, and that is the subscribe button. Thank you so much for joining me. See you guys and girls later. Bye-bye.